Hi everyone, Merry Christmas for those that celebrate, and this is Jim with JP Reacts, where you come to see a former politician's take on what our politicians are saying and what they're not saying in the news. If you like that kind of thing, hopefully you'll subscribe to this channel and like this video. Up today, we're going to be looking at President Trump and his comments on the COVID-19 relief bill that passed Congress this week, and hopefully we can get something out of that. So if you're up for it, check us out after this. Okay, so we'll jump right into the video. Again, this is President Trump and his comments from the White House about the COVID-19 bill that just passed Congress this week.
Throughout the summer, Democrats cruelly blocked COVID relief legislation in an effort to advance their extreme left-wing agenda and influence the election. Then, a few months ago, Congress...
I know I wanted to get right into this. Democrats didn't really block a bill. They had actually passed the bill way back in the summer. I mentioned this in some other videos I posted up there. This notion that they blocked the bill to help him lose the election is fairly ridiculous. But that's not neither here nor there. We want to make sure we get into what this actual bill is about. So let's hopefully he gets into it.
Started negotiations on a new package to get urgently needed help to the American people. It's taken forever. However, the bill they are now planning to send back to my desk is much different than anticipated. It really is a disgrace. For example, among the more than 5,000 pages in this bill, which nobody in Congress has read because of its length.
I want to comment on this about the length of bills and whatnot. Writing legislation is complicated, especially one that outlays money in a special process or is changing something that's already written into law. Each legislation needs to make sure it outlines specifically what it wants to do. It also needs to be put out to, if it needs to amend different parts of different laws that are already in existence. The United States has been around for well over 200 years at this point. There are many laws on the books that need to be referenced. So that usually lengthens the pages of a bill. The fact that it hasn't been read is common. Most of the time, a lot of people on the Hill in Congress, they have their staff read it and give them the bullet points. Because again, a lot of it points to different locations. And even if me or you read the bill, unless we'd have to spend the time to go look and see what the different laws it was pointing to. And that takes time, and congressional people need that time to do other things. Unfortunately, a lot of that extra time is spent fundraising. That's a whole other conversation for another video. But they do have committee assignments. They do hearings. They meet with people in their community. They take phone calls, write letters. So there's a lot of different things that go into it. Spending the time to research, that's why they have staff to do that. And then the staff will provide a summary about what the bill does and what it doesn't do. So the fact that they haven't read it really doesn't make a difference. President Trump hasn't read it. So he has people that are on his staff that read it and provided him a summary, just like the congressional leaders did and the congressmen and senators did in Congress. So this little jab at how long it is or the fact that people didn't read it is just nonsense. So anytime you hear a politician say something like that, it happens a lot when there's major complicated pieces of legislation that gets passed. You can just ignore it because it doesn't really mean anything. Let's continue on with this.
Length and complexity. It's called the COVID relief bill, but it has almost nothing to do with COVID. This bill contains $85.5 million for assistance to Cambodia, $134 million to Burma, $1.3 billion for Egypt and the Egyptian military, which will go out and buy almost exclusively Russian military equipment. $25 million for democracy and gender programs in Pakistan. $505 million to Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama. $40 million for the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., which is not even open for business. $1 billion for the Smithsonian, and an additional $154 million for the National Gallery of Art. Likewise, these...
Okay, so outside of the aid to international countries, which may or may not be legitimate, why it's in a bill called COVID, I'm not really sure. But the comments about the Smithsonian and Kennedy Center and all these other institutions, these institutions employ people. The fact that they're closed doesn't mean that they don't still have expenses. We want them to continue to pay their people so that those people don't go on unemployment and cost the country even more money when they become destitute and all those other things that come along usually from becoming unemployed. There's been a recent approval for museums across the country to begin to sell artifacts to help fund their operations for the specific reason. Places aren't able to have guests, and those places that are able to have guests, less people are coming because they're afraid of coronavirus. So the fact that they're getting money is part of COVID relief. They need to get the money to help pay their people and keep their operations ongoing so they don't close. So the comment that this isn't part of COVID relief, it is. That's just because it goes to specific institutions doesn't mean that it's not part of COVID relief. They're helping pay their costs, which get passed on to their workers who need to have jobs. Otherwise, it's going to cost a lot more in unemployment insurance and Medicaid, and maybe they lose their homes, and now they're even more dependent on state and local governments and federal government help. So it is part of COVID relief. So I'm not really sure why he's all up in arms about that.
These facilities are essentially not open. $7 million for reef fish management, $25 million to combat Asian carp, $2.5 million to count the number of amberjack fish in the Gulf of Mexico.
The Asian carp thing, I have personal experience being from Illinois. It's a major concern for the economies of Illinois and the other states that go around Lake Michigan. If Asian carp invades Lake Michigan, it's going to destroy local fishing communities, local conservation communities, and local economies and tourist economies based around some of these things. So those people need money too, and it costs money to operate those things. There are always these studies, those employ people too. So the fact that they're getting money, yeah, it's weird that they're specifically pointed out, but all these things go to employ people and keep operations going that would otherwise be shut down. So they are, in effect, still COVID relief, even if they are for specific things. These places cost money. They have people that work there. And again, if they don't get the money, then they go out of business and close down, and those people are out on the street. So they need the money for COVID reasons.
A provision to promote the breeding of fish in federal hatcheries.
Same thing here.
$3 million in poultry production technology.
Same thing
$2 million to research the impact of down trees. $566 million for construction projects at the FBI. The bill also allows stimulus.
Construction projects employ people. That is a massive stimulus to the economy when you're building things. It helps not only the people building it, but then it improves the efficiency of the places that work there, because they obviously need these things to be built. So there's a reason that is cost effective. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been approved to be built in the first place. So these are good things to be funded, and specifically construction projects employ a lot of people. So that is a good thing. I'm not really sure why he's against it.
Stimulus checks for the family members of illegal aliens, allowing them to get up to $1,800 each. This is far more.
Let's think about that a little closer. If somebody is here illegally, are undocumented, aren't here in the country, aren't, for whatever reason, here legally. In order to get this money, they have to reach out to a government agency. They have to put their name in there to ask for the money. This goes for any of the services that are provided by any state, local, federal government. If you're doing something illegal, and by being here, the crime isn't that big of a crime. It's a misdemeanor for the most part, unless you do something more egregious. But that in of itself, by exposing them to a government entity, puts them at risk of being deported. What's the chances that they're going to reach out to these government agencies to get money and put themselves at risk of being deported because they're not here legally? Let's think some of this rhetoric through. It doesn't make any sense. These people are not going to be reaching out to any government agency for help. And they're going to be in even worse trouble since a lot of those jobs that they are here for are not currently available. So it's more of just a scare tactic. Ooh, scary illegals. It's not really a thing, so don't worry about that.
Than the Americans are given. Despite all of this wasteful spending and much more, the $900 billion package provides hardworking taxpayers with only $600 each in relief payments. And not enough money is given to small businesses, and in particular restaurants, whose owners have suffered so grievously. They were only given a deduction for others to use in business their restaurant for 2 years. This 2-year period must be withdrawn, which will allow the owners to obtain financing and get their restaurants back in condition. Congress can terminate it at a much later date, but 2 years is not acceptable. It's not enough. Congress found plenty of money for foreign countries, lobbyists, and special interests, while sending the bare minimum to the American people who need it. It wasn't their fault. It was China's fault, not their fault. I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple.
Just to rehash the history of this bill, again, Democrats in the House passed a bill in the summer. Democrats' position at this point has always been that they wanted individuals to get $2,000. Republicans in the Senate refused that amount. They insisted on $600. Democrats came back and said, oh, how about $1,200? Republicans, again, came back and said only $600. This is how negotiations have went over all these months, that the old bill expired back in the summer. So eventually, Democrats want people to have some money, so they passed this bill with the Senate Republicans because it's a bipartisan deal when you're working with a Republican Senate and a Democratic House, that they had to come to an agreement. Democrats wanted some money to actually get to people, and this was the only way to do it. They hoped that come when there's a new president in office, maybe they can get a better deal then. That's the hope, anyway. That's what they're saying publicly. So the fact is, President Trump had this entire time to say what he wanted. He waited until the House and the Senate came together and were able to finally pass a bill with some relief and say, no, I want $2,000. He could have said that months ago, and he could have gotten that passed through the Senate, because that's what the Democrats wanted to do. In fact, the House leader, Speaker Pelosi, recently said, you want $2,000, we'll pass it immediately. And then the Senate blocked it again. So this is not coordinated. This is basically, in my opinion, a grandstanding effort to say, hey, I want more money, but I'm not willing to do anything to make it happen, which is, in fact, what he's doing right now. He's basically he's said he's vetoing this bill, which means people won't get anything. We'll go through what's actually in this bill in a second, but at the end of the day, it's going to be this bill or nothing. Congress has gone home for the holidays, so they're not coming back until they swear in a new Congress on January 6th. So for the entire next 2 weeks, nothing is happening outside of this bill. So hopefully he'll come to a senses and at least sign the bill instead of vetoing it.
I'm also asking Congress to immediately get rid of the wasteful and unnecessary items from this legislation and to send me a suitable bill, or else the next administration will have to deliver a COVID relief package, and maybe that administration will be me.
It's
and
not
we will
going to
get
be
it
him.
done. Thank you very much.
He lost the election. Okay, I want this video is from the LA Times, obviously. So I want to thank the LA Times for providing this full video. This is the only place I was able to find the whole thing. The other places I saw were only 1 minute or 3, not covering the entire speech. So let's go over what's actually in the bill. I did get it from the New York Times, not the LA Times, for that part of it. And basically, like he said, it's individual payments, $600 going to individuals, phased out over as you make more and more money, you get less and less. And then they increased unemployment benefits. Basically, as many as 12 million Americans they offered $300 a week on top of what you get from your state unemployment, which is half of what it was in the spring, unfortunately. They gave additional money for the Paycheck Protection Program, otherwise known as PPP, that was created back in the spring. So that's in there. They provided federal funding for the vaccine for nursing homes, so that's good. It gave money to fund some additional green energy technology, which will provide jobs, which is great. Put a ban on surprise medical bills, so that's good. It had some protections for rental communities. Would protect struggling with rent by extending the moratorium on evictions another month through January 31st. So that's good. It also provides $25 billion in rental assistance that take pressure off of some state and local governments that are providing that. Added more money to the SNAP program, which is the food stamp program, basically by 15% for 6 months. Included money for broadband, building out broadband infrastructure, which creates jobs. And that's the bulk of what's in outside of those other specific measures we mentioned before. So there is a lot in this bill, and it's not perfect. It needed to be a lot bigger. But the fact that he's decrying it now makes not a lot of sense, and hopefully he comes to his senses and just signs it, because he's not going to be in the next administration come January, so we need to get this passed now and hopefully pass the second one once the new administration is in office on January 20th. I would, like many people that are, like I've heard from many experts out there, that the stimulus, the COVID relief, however you want to talk about it, needed to be in that $2 to $3 trillion mark, not $900 billion. $900 billion is a lot of money, but the hole in the economy right now is a lot bigger than that, and we need to make sure we take care of people first while we get the vaccine distributed. So hopefully the vaccine is starting. I've heard that vaccine is starting to get distributed in many of the states, and my particular state has already administered something like 100,000 vaccines, which is great. Hopefully that continues throughout the rest of this winter, and by spring everybody will be covered and be able to get the vaccine, so we can reopen like normal, or as normal as we ever can be in this country. So hopefully you got something out of this, and you learned a little bit about what was in the bill and President Trump's response to it. If you did, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can hear more when I post new videos, which is usually on Mondays and Thursdays. If you didn't, you could dislike it. But either way, please comment below. Tell me what you thought. Was President Trump right about this? Put if he was right or wrong in the comments below, and tell me why you think that. If I don't see you again, hopefully you have a great holiday season if you celebrate. If not, hopefully you have a great couple of weeks. But I will be trying to continue to post on my regular schedule. Until then, I'll see you around the internet. You all have a great day. Bye.